Hello and welcome to Gardening at 58 North. What I'd like to show you here is a new Senetti plant I've just got myself. So previously I've grown Senettis, I'm quite a big fan of them. I'm amazed at how lovely and bright the flowers are. They're so bright in fact that the colours almost seem to hurt your eyes, they're that intense. I generally don't go for those ones though, because I find them they are a bit garish, a bit too bright for me. So I normally go for this variety, which is just a Senetti magenta bicolour. I quite like this one because it's got a little bit of bright colouring on the edges of the petals, but it's also got quite a bit of white as well, so you don't feel too dazzled. Unfortunately, this one, when I bought it in the shop, only had the buds, and I thought the flowers would look more like this, but there's obviously quite a bit of variation from plant to plant, and it's come out a bit more white than I was expecting, so that's a bit of a shame. I wasn't really wanting this much white. I was hoping to have it more like this, with most of it magenta, with just the white in the middle. But there we are, that's how this one's come out. So as I was saying, I've grown them before, and they were looking absolutely fabulous. I'll put in a picture now of what my one looked like last year when it was at its absolute peak. So that one was doing really well, but what happened is it kept getting these little leaf miners which were in the leaves. I don't think there's any on here luckily to show you, but there was leaf miner in it, and what happened is the little bugs would lay their eggs inside the leaf. They would then mine the inside of the leaf, so there's no chlorophyll or any energy left for the leaf to photosynthesize, and then the plant would just get weaker and weaker. And I'd be constantly picking off the infected leaves, but it was generally come in cycles. In summer it would be really bad, in winter it would be okay, it would recover a bit. And it was going through these phases, and it was doing quite well. As I saw in the photos, I had it for about 2 years and did really well. At some points of the year, other points of the year, it almost died. I had to cut it right back and almost start it from new again. But eventually it just got too sick, and last winter was just too much for it. And I decided just to throw it away because it was just so close to death. I thought, it's never going to really fully recover. So I bought a new one now. Hopefully this will last me a few years as well. I mean, they're not known as long-term perennial plants, so maybe that's the reason why I couldn't get it to live much more than 2 or 3 years. Anyway, this is a new one now. It's a really healthy looking one. One of the main problems I do find with Senettis though is the wind. If you have one from a nursery, the wind will often break it. So this stem's been snapped. I find that where the stems meet at the ground, they can be quite vulnerable and weak down there. And when they've been grown in a nursery and they haven't had much wind, they haven't really toughened up enough to defend against that. So they often snap their branches if you have them in a windy location. But if you've had them outside for quite a while, the branches tend to stiffen up. The wind's not an issue after a while, but as I say, when you first buy them, it can be an issue, so just be careful with that. So as you can see, this one's got loads and loads of healthy shoots coming up from the base, so even when these flowers are finished, there should be more coming up. And what generally happens with Senettis is they will flower themselves almost to death. They'll just keep flowering loads and loads over the spring and into early summer, and then they'll kind of exhaust themselves. They'll look pretty weak and ugly. So what I'll normally do is I'll cut them back hard, they'll grow back with some new leaves, and then they'll give me another fantastic display in autumn. So they're really good value for money, Senettis. I'm quite happy with them. They're quite a recent introduction to the horticultural world. They've probably only been around 10-15 years, and it's just really the last 5 years that they've taken off with popularity. And the main reason they're so popular is they love really cold conditions. So, you know, at this time of year when it's still quite cold outside, the spring flowers have kind of finished, or spring flowers that are there don't have any of the really bright summery colours that you like, you can go for a Senetti. Because Senetti's got all these bright colours. They say there's probably about 5 or 6 different varieties. This is just one of the varieties, and the other ones are much more colourful than this. So you can have that lovely summer intense colour in the springtime. So these love cold weather, as I say. If you live in a hot country, you can't grow these in a hot country, unfortunately. They just kind of wither away and die. Also, if you have a hot summer, you'll find that these will really suffer. But here in Scotland, they do quite well because we have quite cool summers. So although they like really cold weather, they can't take frost. So if you do have any frost, make sure you cover them up, bring them inside, protect them from frost. But they can handle right down to 0 degrees. And in fact, they seem to be happiest at about 5 to 10 degrees. So they like it really quite cold. I think the reason they like it so cold is they're actually from a tropical island somewhere in the Atlantic. I'll put the name up now on the video because I can't remember off the top of my head. But they come from this island, and it's a tropical island, but because these plants come from very high altitude areas of that island, it's a stable temperature year round because it's in the tropics, but because of the altitudes, it's always quite cold. Probably, you know, not much more than 20 in the day, down to close to freezing at night, but never below freezing because it's, as I say, stable temperatures most of the year. So that's where this is from originally, and the family that is Pericallus. And these Senettis are basically just crosses and hybrids of all those different Pericallus plants, and that's why they like it so cool, but they don't like frost. So it's quite a unique plant. But anyway, these are all the hybrids. As I say, the Senetti is just a brand name from the hybrids that have been grown, and there's absolutely loads of them coming out. As I say, there's about 5 or 6 at the moment, but every year they seem to be introducing new ones. So that's my Senetti plant, and I'll hopefully give you an update when this is absolutely full flower. It shouldn't be too long. You can see it's just starting to open up now, but there's loads and loads of buds all over starting to grow. Even further down here, there's younger buds. So I'm expecting the whole thing to be completely covered in flowers like it was last year. I'll just leave you with a picture now of how my Senetti looked when it was in full bloom before.